Calling to order the Board of Education meeting for Road Community College for Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. And we do have a quorum. Maria online. Is Gary online?
Gary's on there.
Okay. Awesome. Welcome. And we get to start our meeting with some awards and recognition. Dr. Weber.
Yeah, we have one award and recognition, and I'm excited because this award and recognition is a student group. And so these are students nominated by RCC faculty and staff in recognition of their academic excellence, engagement in honors programs and extracurricular activities, and meaningful contributions to the college and broader community. Among those who are nominated and applied to the 25-26 USA All USA Academic Team Competition, these six of us here tonight, have been selected to represent RCC as members of the All Oregon Academic Team. So in April, we're going to travel together. I think I'm driving a van to Chemeketa and Salem for a statewide luncheon honoring the team. It's an awesome event. Board members are always welcome to come. Let's see if you're able to come. So these exemplary students will also be recognized at our honors night in May. And with us tonight, maybe if you would, I was going to introduce you, but I'm going to pivot here a little bit. If you would tell us your name and what your program of study is, and one thing you appreciate about your program. How about that? Or your RCC experience. Name, program of study, and one thing you appreciate about your RCC experience.
My name is Rex Vaughn. I'm an industrial welding technology program for the Associates of Applied Science. And one thing I would say I appreciate about the program is how above and beyond the teachers have gone, from Mrs. Green to Mike Friesen, really with giving one-on-one help and helping out.
Michael Jewett. I'm at present Associate of General Studies with several pathways, yes, in humanities and English. So I found I really enjoy those particular subjects. What do I find best about Road Community? How welcoming everybody's been, students and faculty alike. As a first generation student and first time going through college, it's really been a fantastic experience for me.
I'm Carrie Miller. I am in the Human Services program. I've on track to get my associates and transfer. I am actually pivoting and transferring to PSU in the fall to do their social work program. One thing I really appreciate about the program and the school is the second chances that it provides. I'm an addict in recovery, and I have 2.5 years clean now, and I'm also a certified drug and alcohol counselor because of this program. And I'll be on track to get my LCSW and get a master's in social work, all because of this program. And I was completely surprised by this award, and I'm just super grateful for this community, the school, and staff and students alike. Thank you. Sorry, I'm such a
My name is Crystal Fuller, and I am in the nursing program. I'm on track to graduate in June. I'm super grateful also for the faculty and just the culture of Road Community College. I'm also adjunct faculty for the Allied Health program, so I help teach the medical assisting program. And I've seen nothing but wonderful things as a student, as faculty, and I've been able to start leading the work source tours at our health building in White City. And that's been super rewarding. Being able to share my story with people from all different walks of life and encourage them that if I can do it, they can do it too.
I'm Brooke Brown. I am in the dental hygiene program, and RCC, I went in 1996, right out of high school. And I started with dental assisting, and it was like a 6-week program at the mall in Medford, and changed a ton now. So I just went back a couple years ago, and I had been in IT for 20 years and I was tired of it. And LinkedIn announced, I saw something that said we're going to do a dental hygiene program. And I said, that's what I wanted to do when I started in 96. And so I'm back, and here I am. And I'm just grateful to yeah, for the instructors, it's just been a whole community ever since even 96. Any classes I've ever taken here, I've always felt just part of a community. And the president is always comes by. I worked as a student worker at the dental clinic too. So he always was it made me feel like you were part of like just a community. So thank you.
My name's Guy Hughes. I am a computer science major. I just turned 42 on Saturday. My birthday's Valentine's Day. Ever since I set foot on the campus, there has been support, and I love that from the executives down, everybody cares. It really shows. Very much supported. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And in lieu of singing happy birthday to Guy, we're gonna have him read us a poem instead. So actually,
So yes, there's like a survey questionnaire for the all Oregon academic team, and for some reason I was in a very poetic mood last week. And I wrote a response to a question like, what is one challenge you've had and how did you overcome it? And so I just kind of started writing a poem. I don't think it's going to be on the website because they're just going to make a summary, for you. So this is it. This is something I'm just calling It's Never Too Late. My life hasn't been easy. Grew up poor, no safety net. Threadbare pockets carried trauma heavy with regret. Chains of shame and anxiety maintained the blame inside of me. And I wanted to retrain the brain to reframe reality. Fall of 2023, RCC open house, parked the car. Hands on the wheel, heart racing, thinking, this is too hard. I drove around the parking lot like I might just disappear. Fear, talking loud, you don't belong here. But I stepped forward, not easy, but I tried. I didn't know it then, but that moment changed my life. College didn't just teach me facts, it showed me who I am. Fulfillment is in reach to grasp. You have to seize it to understand. One class at a time, one assignment, one day. Each step the bricks were laid, and the road faith in myself paved. It wasn't one subject. It was learning how to stay and hold space in the work, in the moments, and in the connections I create. Coming back older, I had errors in my program. So now I see I can rewrite the code with my own hands, confronting hard truths I used to leave unsaid and reworking old patterns that kept me misled. The blueprint to growth may seem mysterious, but I found its adjustment, awareness, and staying curious. Show up and give it 110. Not knowing is not failure, it's where growth begins. And if there is one final thing school taught me to see, stand strong in your work, earn earnestly, stronger student, healthier human, better teammate. The story is yours to tell. It's never too late.
Guy, I want to commend you for getting out of the car. We talked so many times
Yeah.
about the story of so many people who
Absolutely.
drive to college and don't get out of the car because of that fear. So obviously you demonstrated how well, how positive the experience has been for you. So we will let you again, feel free to find the door and get on with the rest of your evening. We so appreciate your desire and willingness to be with us tonight. And congratulations on your well-deserved recognition. We're going to get to spend, hopefully as many of you as possible are able to go to our luncheon on Friday in April, and then we'll spend some good time in the van together. So
Thank you so much.
seeing you all again.
Your wife. Your wife.
Oh, no.
Here. Do we have a poet laureate set here? Is there a poet laureate for the?
It's all right.
So everyone here.
Right.
Weekend, birthday weekend. It's changing.
All right, beat that.
I can't be that, like, no, I want to keep going. No, I know. Oh, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us, and we look forward to hearing more about the amazing stuff that they're doing and some kind of teams. Rochelle, do we have any public comment? And then at this time, then we will move into our college reports.
Mike's been on his way to CTE Day, so.
Well, we're not. Okay, well, that's a good thing for Micah to do. He's been a faithful reporter this year and we appreciate that. And we will move on to board reports. Executive committee, and I think it was Maria.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, it was me on executive committee. We had a great meeting. We did meet, discuss both the agenda for our work session and the Board of Education meeting. So our work is sort of manifest there in front of you. We also talked a little bit about the president's evaluation process. So had a great meeting, and I'll answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Okay, Maria, how about board outreach committee?
I don't have anything unless Jonathan has anything now.
All right, OCCA, OSBA liaison.
I got stuff.
All right.
So we had a board meeting on February 6th. And of course, it's legislative session, so there's a lot of bills we chatted about and offered opinions on, some of which we talked about here last month. If you remember, we had Legislative Concept 74, which talked about the ICE or federal involvement here on the campus. We'll get to that. I'll list the four that we chatted about at the board meeting. One, Senate Bill 1537, which requires community college board of education to have a non-voting student member on the board. Now it sounds, well, there's some problems with it, how it was originally put together as far as nationalities, citizenship of the person, how quickly they run over. We don't think, or at least it was determined, we'll probably oppose that. If you're taking a position, we'll probably oppose that legislation. There's incidental things on that particular one about we all have to have a public email address. I don't think that's a problem, but the non-voting student board member, are they allowed in executive session? Aren't they allowed in executive session? So there are some legal requirements as well as other requirements that are just problematic. House Bill 4079 is the outcome of Legislative Concept 74, which we talked about last week. They've changed it substantially. They made it not so prescriptive. They gave institutions the ability to define what their campuses were, all the things that were really big roadblocks to success. So the OCCA board voted support with the amendments that they've just discussed. So we may revisit this before we're done. There's House Bill 4124. It's a study of the condition of post-secondary education in Oregon. And this is, I think this is a Pam Marsh bill, and Randy may talk about it this time. And we're just going to watch it at this point in time because there's a lot of things in there that you can't lump all post-secondary education in Oregon together because it's different. There's different governing bodies and stuff. So there's some problems with the bill. Then if we come down to my favorite one, and I call this the Fig Newton bill. House Bill 4161 directs the food and beverage served and college board members and staff at meetings or official events in colleges are non-considered prohibited financial gain. So I don't have to report the Fig Newtons on my tax return. So the other business that we carried on in the board meeting was new slate of officers for next year. Andrew Spear, the current president, is now going to be the past president. A new board member at large, Gina Sanchez from Portland Community College. Other board member at large is Susan Anderson, board member from Southwestern. Treasurer is Kenny Lawton, the president of Columbia Gorge. Secretary is Dr. Rachel, and I can never get that right. Horan?
Yeah, you're close.
The president of UCC. The vice president is Christy Adams, a board member from Lynn Benton College, and I'm slated to be president next year. So this may be a high water year for the campus prior to me getting there. Aside from that, it was good meeting, like they are, and I'm always impressed with the people we have representing us at that body, so. And with that, I think that's my report.
The Foundation Board Liaison.
Maria, do you want to do this, or do you want me to do this, or we're gonna leave it to Cass later on?
I think we'll just say that, I think the first time in my tenure on this committee, I attended. I was really, really happy to attend. Both Pat and I were there. It was great. And I think we'll let Cass fill you in on what the team decided.
Okay. And then the president's performance review. We, Gary and Maria and I met on that day, whenever that day was, a while ago, to review the tools, the instruments, and the proposed timeline. You will be getting an email from Rochelle that spells out that timeline, and you will, did you already send out? Okay, and also you will get to see our sort of slightly tweaked tool. We just tweaked one little part of it towards the end. Gary or Maria, anything you want to add?
No, I think that's well said, Vanessa.
Vanessa, can I?
Yes.
Pardon me, there's one thing I left out of my report. The Membership Services Committee of the OCCA deals with board members, and there's going to be a new survey just to board members. Normally the surveys that is done is to everybody, and it's usually post-convention. This is going to be more in depth. We're going to talk about, we're going to see what you want to have, but also see if we can quantify or qualify the people we know and what we do, so we can be better tools for the association as well. And the reason why this is important is because I'm the chairman of that committee, and my goal is an 80% participation rate. Now you have to understand that typically 30% is we consider it a success. So I'm giving you all fair warning that from at least RCC, I'm really gonna be after you guys.
100% from RCC.
And I've been threatening the other schools, other institutions, that if they don't get in, there'll be a guest speaker at their board meetings with dad jokes.
Oh,
So-
there you go.
So that's incentive. So
So get your surveys in.
get your surveys in, there'll be people watching. So 80% is the goal. And we're really trying to make this really meaningful. So there's going to be questions about what you want for the state association to do for you, what kind of training you want to do for you. And the other item I left out is Lunch and Learn for this month, the 26th, is all going to be about Bachelor of Applied Science in Education. So
That one?
that's on the 26th or 27th. I think I have it here somewhere, but anyway, be watching for that. And that will be a good one, because we're all going to kind of new, and like the old saying, forearmed is forearmed. So anyway, forewarned is forearmed. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, that's okay.
okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to college updates. Wherever you are at.
Well, yeah, I'll begin by saying I did not provide you with a written report this month. As you're all aware, I was on medical leave last week, and I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you to the board for supporting me during that time. But thank you to our team. I felt very fortunate in being able to take the week to take care of myself and things I needed to tend to, and didn't have to think twice about, the state of the college. And so I want to thank you guys for your great leadership while I was away. But there are a couple things I do want to update you on verbally that are going on right now. And Pat alluded to a couple of them within the legislative updates. I might just give a couple more details on some of the bills that he referenced. The study bill that is coming from Rep. Marsh is one that is of particular interest in the state. And I don't think you have to look very far outside of her district in Ashland to understand her concern for the state of post-secondary education. And so what will come from it is, and I assume that this one will pass. It'll probably continue to get suggested amendments. But it'll be a study by HEC to look at the current state of post-secondary education in Oregon and what recommendations for solvency might be, because we are all witnessing firsthand our neighbors and friends at SOU in the financial constraints they're in, but there are a number of institutions who are not very far behind them. We talk a lot about our current budget position and being in a more fortunate place because of our recent strong enrollment efforts and our long-term fiscal mindset and strategies. But the immune to what's happening across the rest of the state. It's just not impacting us as early as it's hitting some of the other schools because of our recent efforts. But I mean, we spent hours together as a leadership team this morning, and it is very clear the rough waters that are ahead, even for RCC and decisions that we're going to have to make as a college moving forward. And it does not look as though that swift relief is on the way. Just for additional context, the last revenue projections did come in right before the start of session or right after the start of session, more favorable than the quarter prior. So the state, what happened was that the ending fund balance for the state was a little bit stronger than they anticipated when final audit was done. And final corporate tax collections came in at $100+ million more. So the state is in a little bit better financial position than the last revenue projection, which is kind of real time. But reality is that, you know, the biggest strain on the foreseeable future is the impact of the attached tax code to federal tax code, and you know, that's looking at a projected at least $800 million loss in revenue from a budget standpoint. That look at how do you look at maintaining agencies when that goes away essentially overnight. So our legislators have really tough road ahead of them to try to figure out where they're going to go. We are not anticipating a strong CCSF for the next couple of bienniums, and we're waiting to see what impacts for this current biennium may occur. As a reminder, this short session that can run no later than I think March 9th or 10th will conclude, and they may cut the CCSF beyond what was initially approved. But even if let's say we're looking at potentially a 1% cut is what we're estimating with the more positive, because they still have some additional costs they have to make up. Whether they cut that 1% or they don't cut anything, it does not mean we're in the free and clear for the rest of the biennium. We have had bienniums in the past where, because of significant and severe times, they've come in and made late biennium cuts. And so that's important for us to know. We're keeping those considerations in place as we go into the budget process. The other thing I wanted to talk on with the bill that in it is the House bill. It's in my eyeballs here. Senate bill, I'm sorry, 1537, which is a Board of Ed, have a non-voting student member on the board and public listed email addresses. We already dealt with that one. The third component of that is process or requirements for filling board vacancies that occur more than 90 days prior to the election. So what happened was we did have prior to our last election, a school that struggled to fill a vacant board position and ran into a couple 3-3 ties, and they couldn't get a fourth vote to approve or not approve. So they ran stale on stuff. And so there was an initial attempt legislatively to come up with a bill that would say maybe, well, then county commissioners should do it. And that was an example, like, well, maybe we don't start there. Like, we already have a process in place. One time it didn't work at one school. Let's not overcorrect the problem. And so we're trying to say, let's keep this process in place. And maybe if there's a circumstance where this process doesn't work, then there's a fallback. But let's not overcorrect. And so I think that they've landed on that a little bit. But that is something that we're watching. But I want to go back to the part of this that talks about the non-voting student board member. It's a tricky conversation because I think the fear is that colleges will be reflected as though we don't care about voice of students. The trick is, I think in some ways it's looking at it in the way the universities are, but as a point of note that the universities board members other than the student, are all appointed by the governor. And actually, I'm not sure the student is either appointed by the students or maybe even the governor. Whereas all of our board members are elected by the taxpayers because it's a special taxing district. And so the non-voting is kind of the component of that. But what has happened more recently is if this is going to pass and move through and we have a ceremonial student non-voting on the board, the opportunity for voice will be there if not vote. But then what happens in executive sessions as a trick? And I have some concern for this at RCC, not that we can't do it, but we're gonna have to look at doing some things differently because this is a topic that prior ASGs, upon my arrival here, brought up as, students on the board. And my honest feedback then was, I don't think we yet have a process that we can lean into for student voice. And so our ASG president historically was hired and appointed by staff versus elected by students. So it's a hired student voice versus an elected student voice. So that doesn't feel like the right way to collect student voice. We did run a successful student election, I think, last year, but for this year, they've struggled. We've really had a hard time getting ASG hired back up, multi-campus students who work. I mean, you just heard student stories, like, those students all have lives that are happening. And so, trying to figure out how do you get to that representative voice that is really reflective of it is in some colleges a lot easier when you have a very robust student government and who is in some democratic way been elected by their peers to be their representative. So if this bill passes, we will put more priority on trying to figure out what that is. But it's going to be hard at RCC compared to more traditional campuses with traditionally aged students that are single campus, and you see a more vibrant student life versus students who work. So have faith that if passed, we will be compliant. But those are where some of our reservations come in is along those lines. We don't know answers to questions like most of our students who represent their peers, those are student paid jobs because our students are busy, so they get paid to be student. Well, can you be a paid representative of the board? So there's a lot more questions than answers, even though on the surface it sounds like such a great thing to include student voice. So with that, I will conclude my comments unless you have any questions of me.
Okay. Senior leadership team. Happy. Okay.
So our facilities projects are going well. Roof replacement is done. That was one of our major projects we were doing this year. The other one is HVAC, about 98% complete. We'll get some more equipment. On the agenda, one of the resolutions that's coming forward is the contract with Johnson Controls and Building. Within the resolution, it explains what's going on. If you have questions, we can go with that. I just wanted to let you know Johnson Control is a vendor that we use for multiple different items within the college, putting together those systems around our building controls, HVAC, all the way to security and safety. And so you will see that vendor come up as we move forward. One of the things that we have been discussing is within our community college rules of procurement, there's 3 levels. Level or 300 level is really around RCC specific rules. And one of the first rule that we actually have in there is around purchasing of computer equipment. We purchase from a vendor that is on contract or is a preferred vendor. We don't bring those resolutions to you continually because we buy $300,000 and $400,000 worth of equipment, computer equipment on an annual basis. And so that's in one of our rules. And so we're discussing internally whether that might be an option for Johnson Control as well. The safety and security locks, lockdown buttons, those types of things is something that we're going to bring in the next couple of years. And so we're making that having that conversation to see if we could put that in our rules of procurement. Until then, you will see us bring resolutions forward. That's for additional buildings. We do all of the work right now. So we contract for what we can and then we move forward. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Within IT, again, we're strengthening our cybersecurity through professional development. We're continuing to bring on our multi-factor authentication and then also single sign-on alignment to enhance our security and our user experience. So they've been doing a lot of work in IT. Richard and his team's doing a great job. Mike and his team, they got the 1098T forms. Those are tax forms to our students for their tuition and fee expenses. Those were distributed on time, so great job. And then also the business office has been working with SLS in their team on aligning payment deadlines and priority registration. So it's less frustrating for students and staff. That's all I have.
Any questions for Lisa?
I do have a question. This is probably not germane to you and it might be to somebody else. I had a question from somebody that said, I know we have a dental hygiene class now and they're looking for patients. My first comment was volunteers or victims or patients. So they're looking for patients. How does somebody contact the school to put their name in the hat?
See, Brooke was here earlier. You should ask.
I didn't think about it.
If I may pass that on to Rick.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a phone number for the dental clinic and I can grab that for you.
That'd be great before I get out of here.
Yeah, definitely. And they can sign up that way.
I appreciate it.
All right, I can go next. I'm looking forward to the CTE showcase and legislative meetings that some of us are headed to. Thanks for going. We have a great number of folks representing us, 14 people in total representing RCC. So that is going to be great. I really appreciate the work of Joseph Moore and Stephen Phelps in helping to coordinate student and alum representation. A couple of things from the report that I just wanted to call your attention to. The first is the student experience survey. Really looking forward to that work. The last time we administered a student experience survey here at Rogue, it was in 21-22. So we're on track with our cycle that we intended. This is being led by the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council in partnership with Institutional Research, so Esam and his team. And they'll, of course, be working with stakeholders to gather feedback on that. When we administered it in 21-22, we received 478 unique student responses. So it would be wonderful to exceed that number.
80%. 80%.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. And we'll definitely be providing more information as we have updates along the way. It is already February, getting really close to March. So I would be remiss not to mention Employee Appreciation Week is coming up. So we'll be celebrating that at the college March 2nd through the 6th with a variety of engagements. That's something we started a couple of years ago now. So it is the way we do things around here, finally. Really looking forward to that and appreciative for all the different teams that go into planning those activities. And then finally, just wanted to highlight some professional development and training work that's going on. You probably saw several things within the report around that. So we have the Professional Development Council, which is jointly led by Dave and myself. That's doing some really good work aligning opportunities for professional development with our strategic plan. So excited about the progress we're making. That's a fairly new council here at Rogue. But then on the training side of things, we are right in the middle of everybody's favorite season, which is the annual required training. Yes. Yes. So we are using our systems that now provide better access to reporting. So that makes people like ESOM really excited when we're going to have accreditation site visit. Can you demonstrate that everybody's taking their training? Why, yes, we absolutely can. People have
Crying.
done it.
We shoot for 100%.
Completed with bells on, all the like. And we're starting to plan for spring in service as just another example. So it seems like as my time at the college passes, the years go by faster and faster. So I welcome any questions about any part of the report, but those are just some quick highlights.
Was last year the first year with the Professional Development Council? Okay.
Yes.
Any questions? All right.
So I have a couple of updates that I'll add. I've completed 2 of those trainings so far.
Out of how many?
In there. I don't know. Last week we did have about 33-ish people go to Student Success and Retention Conference up in Portland, and more to come about what happened up there maybe next month at the board meeting. But I wanted to just take a moment to recognize that it was a great opportunity for a lot of the folks who went from RCC to really connect with each other and kind of intentional work that we're doing to strengthen our employee connectedness here on campus. So there were a lot of folks there who were asking, "Where's Randy? Where's Randy?" And but they came up to me and told me how thankful they were that we always show up for that conference and are there as a group and have that time to talk to each other and connect and all those things. So that was really nice to hear. Last week on Monday, we did have a visit from Lithia, and that's not in the report, but they came and they presented us a $50,000 check. I'm sure Cass probably
I
talked
was
about
just giving you some excited hands over there.
so that was really exciting, and we're really thankful for that partnership with Lithia. And those dollars will go to help support training equipment and specialty tools for the program. And then let's see, in March, RCC will be participating in a conversation sponsored by the Grants Pass Chamber of Commerce on March 4th around outdoor recreation roundtable is what it's called. And there's some intentional participation from folks, and they're going to be doing a SWOT analysis and how it works with our economy, our local economy here, and all the supports for that specific area. So we're excited to be participating in that. Pat, you were asking, and next time you drive by Table Rock campus, you might notice the billboard that is there. And there's a new billboard that is about the dental clinic.
Yeah.
And so there might be a phone number there. So
Okay.
don't dial and drive, but so you'll see that, and we really want appreciative thanks to our marketing department. That was a great opportunity to update that billboard there. So take a look when you do have some time. We talked a little bit about the Bachelor's of Applied Science earlier in the B's section of the workshop today, and I just wanted to let you know that we're continuing to move forward with all of that. That's part of our due diligence as part of RCC, but we're encountering just some stumbling blocks through some of the processes that are that have been laid out for approvals from the HEC, and so we're going to continue to doing our part that's required so that we can get all of the items completed for what we've got to do, whether it's accreditation, whether it's through approvals through the HEC, whether it's program accreditation, all those things. So we're moving forward just as fast as we possibly can, but just wanted to let you know there are potentially some of those stumbling blocks ahead of us that we have to navigate. That lunch and learn that you were talking about, what is on the 26th on Thursday from noon to 1. And accreditation work continues. We're currently reviewing our drafts for 4 of the sections for the standards and hope to have that at our Council of College Effectiveness Council later this month. So for more widespread review. So the updates, happy to answer any questions about what I said or anything in the report.
I just on on the Bachelor of Applied Science and Education, who are the other institutions involved?
So that would be, we've got Chemeketa, we have Lynn Benton, RCC, Columbia Gorge, and Treasure Valley.
Okay, so they're geographically diverse.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Some.
Right, Madam Chairman, I've been a good boy in the sense that I've completed 32% of the annual. Head of Dave.
Yeah, you better be the coach when done.
There you go. I did, last couple of times, we talked about this. We were kind of focused on accreditation, which we continue to be, as you heard from Dave. But I also know that you had asked me to not forget about strategic planning. So I'm coming back to let you know we have not. In the background, that work continues. What I'd like to do for the next few minutes is talk about where that work is, starting with the timeline, and then I'll pick out a couple of items from the timeline to focus a little bit. That's okay. Last time we talked about it, we kind of decided that going forward, we're looking at tentatively, if everything goes fine, July 1 of 2027, which is the beginning of the academic fiscal year 28, when this should go into effect. And I know academic and fiscal years are not the same thing. For our purposes today, I'll take the liberty of using them similarly. The community survey with the strategic plan module will be in the field, as you heard from me last time, somewhere between mid-April and mid-May. We expect to have the results analyzed and done by early June. At the same time, working on the environmental scan, which should be finalized by early July. Part of the reason for that timeline is I'm expecting to have both of those finalized for your review at your retreat, which should come up about the third week of July, give or take. And yes, I've kind of roped in my boss, as you can see in the next one. But yeah, I mean, we are expecting that there will be some conversation about it at the fall kickoff, the third week of September, where some more updates could be given, including what you have kind of come upon at the end of your retreat. Following that, yes, there will be more stakeholder engagement sessions and activities, which we plan to finalize and announce after a successful accreditation visit at the end of October. I'm very confident that that's what it'll turn out to be. It'll be a successful visit. And then following that, in winter and spring of AY 27, those forums will be planned out, more stakeholder engagements. And of course, the nitty-gritty work of crafting the priorities and the KPIs, including, I needed to emphasize this, leading indicators. One of the things we want to emphasize is as we go forward with strategic planning, we want to look not only at the lagging indicators, things we have done, but also have something, leading indicators, which tells us, are we going to be doing this, or should we need to have some tweaks? And again, that strategic plan, all else goes well, that should go into effect at the beginning of academic/fiscal year 2028, which would be July 1 of 27. Now, from these, I do want to kind of pick out a couple of things, that the survey with the strategic plan module and the outline of the environmental scan for the next couple of slides. Before I do that, do you have questions for me that I can answer? Right.
It may be, Izan, just a little bit early to ask this question, but it occurred to me that I see that you've graciously involved us, the board, in a standing invitation to participate wherever it's appropriate. And that's kind of the gist of my question. You know, obviously, sitting there watching the sausage being made is not necessarily, going to be useful to anybody, but could you give us an idea of where, other than just sitting here in these meetings and hearing about the finished product, does it make any sense for us to get involved somehow?
Certainly, and I'll let the boss pick up on that a little bit too. But I certainly expect that when we get together at the retreat, That'll be the principal forum when we get to give you the information on which you can base your further instructions and expectations on. And going through the process as we move forward, there will be other opportunities as well. Am I kind of on the right track?
Yeah, I think you captured it well. I think this summer will be a little telling when we, so what we do is what do we want to capture from the community? When we get that, we're going to see, well, what work do we think we have ahead of us? And it may become evident then, and it's like, that's really operational things we want to do, move forward. We look forward to the college doing that. Maybe I hope this isn't the case. We get feedback that says, we really need to be able to trust the college more in this community. And the board may say, you know, if that's the issue, then we might want to be a little more involved in the process. So I think we can get that, and that's going to kind of help there, but we can create some very structured formats rather than just each time given quick updates as part of this. We could maybe carve off a workshop or two after key, like here's a checkpoint where we want to give you some feedback on where we're here. So we can give some progress reports to the board to get some feedback from there. We may decide, you know, during the development process, you know, the next board retreat isn't scheduled till after the July 1st. Maybe we need to schedule a special retreat to really delve into the plan. Like, we're going to be gauging as we go. We want to be transparent with you, but also expect for you to come back to us and say, you know, this is working well with us being pretty hands off, or we're really at a point where we want to get involved more, and then we'll respond. And probably I would say that would be the most kind of, the least involved would be just casual updates, and the most involved would be a couple special meetings of the board to try to adopt it. So I suspect we'll fall somewhere in the middle there.
Okay, thank you.
So we talked about adding a strategic plan module to the community engagement survey, which we had the first time last year. And just to recap, this is the audience right now. Organization with relationships with our foundation, with SBDC, those who are serving in various industry advisory councils. At your suggestion, which was a very good one, we're going to add all the district superintendents in the Valley, and others as may be directed by the leadership. So as we get ready to send this out in April, between now and then, if the leadership or if you strong feeling that, you know, this is a group that we should have and we kind of forgot, I'm more than open to adding those as well. But right now, this is kind of where it stands. And again, we're sending it out sometimes mid-April, starting mid-April. And let me digress just a little bit to something that Jamie pointed out. We do have a new platform for surveys, which I expect will help us get more responses for the student survey as well. And looking forward. So based on literature and other studies, what we found out in the strategic planning module, we're going to add 6 questions, which is on top of the community engagement survey. And I can bring up the actual questions, but I didn't want to have 6 more slides to it. So what you see, there'll be a question about mission relevance. How well are we? How well is the mission aligned with what we need? Multiple choice, four options. We are asking people to pick one, and there is no option for good, great, nothing neutral. So good, great, not so good, not so great, kind of a thing. Then it switches to mission in practice. How effectively are we translating our mission into action? Several choices there, given what we are doing already. And again, we have 5 options. We ask them to pick. For each of them, it's a matrix. This thing we're doing great. This thing, maybe we could do a little bit of improvement. Then we switch over to strategic priorities. Provide them with a long list of things that we have been doing, things we've been talking about, things we have been hearing. Here are the things. Pick the top 3. And again, this was a middle ground between picking just one and picking everything under the sun. And yes, there is an option for write something if you want to. And we switch over to the overall value of the institution. 7 statements, and we ask them to pick level of agreement with each of those statements. And as we move into more innovative type of things, what should our role be in emerging technologies and innovations? It is, again, it's 5 options that we ask people to pick one, kind of trying to help them have a choice, but also help them give us some directions as opposed to, well, pick something. And this last question is open-ended. Pick up one thing and tell us, how can we best serve the community? This part of kind of goes along with the discussion we have been having with you the last few months, that we're looking for a plan, hopefully, which has some coherence across the board, that this is the North Star kind of a thing. I'm hopeful this will help us get there. It will not be everything, but it'll be a good guidance towards that. 6 questions, it adds about 3.5 minutes, which was kind of a sweet medium. In an ideal place where people have no limits on their time, I would have added about 2 or 4 more. We have to be careful about where we go. So let me stop there and ask you what questions you have about these questions. Yes, ma'am.
Not about the questions, but are you getting any information from the people filling out the survey? Like, did they attend RCC, any information about that? What's their relationship to RCC?
We are. They are at the top of the community engagement survey. There are 3 kind of qualifying questions that which one of these categories you belong to, how you're related to us, that kind of thing, which does let us kind of segment them as we move forward. Absolutely.
Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, thank you, Isam. I was reflecting a bit on the first part of the survey in the sense of getting feedback on how well the present mission aligns with the need. And I'm wondering if there is misalignment, how would we know that, other than lower scores potentially? So you have multiple choices with options. And I imagine the multiple choices are going to be a sort of a grade, a scale of, yes, the current mission does match the current needs well. Will there be sort of a graduated series of options for people to respond to, sort of hone in on what you're trying to achieve in that first part?
Yeah, that's a good question, Gary. And yes, it is. It's a graded. There are 4 graded options that it aligns very well. It aligns somewhat, doesn't align well, and doesn't align well. And then there is a blank space if they want to add something else. Between those two, that question and especially the very last one, and perhaps the second one as well, I think it gives us some direction. And then since the board will be taking a look at it at its July meeting, I'm expecting that if there's a serious misalignment, we'll probably get some direction that, and we take a look at the mission.
Yeah.
And we need to tweak it. Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, it does. And I'm trying to think about the last part of that, which is the open-ended strategic guidance. I'm just trying to imagine if, how many respondents would you guess might, in an optimal survey, how many would you hope for in taking this?
Based on what we have had in the past and the new platform, I'd be happy with the representative survey, which is representative as it gets approximately about 200 responses, give or take.
Okay, so in that last area, is it you're thinking that you would bundle, for lack of a better word, like ideas that people might populate with, here's the one thing I think we should do more of, and that might be a way to become a springboard then for any significant change, for example, in the direction in the mission. Is that a fair assessment of how that might look?
That's a great question, Gary, and I'm glad you asked that because yes, on the free form, I do expect to have content analysis thanks to a new platform. It's not an exact science, but it does get us quite a bit there that it bundles up things on similar themes. So that part I can tell you, yes, we plan to do that.
And Isam, help me here. Is it safe to assume, right, depending on the responses here, we may receive affirmation that the current mission is good, but that we're comfortable with it. But these responses to this open-ended question might guide us to how we might continue to move forward with it. So when you say more of or less of, people may say your mission is great, but in order to accomplish it better, you need to do more of this or less of this. And you might see those as actions or priorities to execute the plan itself.
Absolutely. I think if we see that, the mission relevance, those are good numbers coming in, and then we see quite a bit here at the last question too. That tells us exactly that this is going good. And here is how you can reformulate it to address current issues that are coming up.
Yes.
Maria.
Okay, thank you.
Maria, do you have your hand up?
Yes, but not her mute on.
Yes, but not you.
I do have my hand up, and if I could only find my unmute button, I'd be in business. I'm just wondering, the question specifically, is this going to be the tool that, or sort of the general questions for all of our community engagement efforts? Will we evaluate really close partners differently?
Maria, that's also a good question. I don't have a complete answer yet, but and kind of picking up on where Roger left off, this will be the foundation. Based on what we find in the open-ended strategic guidance, I certainly expect that there will be an opportunity for a focus group of some kind or other engagement in person based on who wants to do it. So if we find, that some folks have pretty strong opinions, strong ideas about where we want to go to, we'll get back to them and ask more either through the same process or through some kind of engagement on the ground. Haven't decided that yet. Thank you. Now let's turn around, look at the environmental scan, and I use 30,000 feet because I want to be at 30,000 as opposed to 10,000 at this time. This is what a pictorial description looks like for us. Yeah. Within that little blue rectangle, that's our area of influence. People who are coming in, our services, the opportunities we know of and we prepare people for. And within that, right outside of that, those are what I consider to be our internal challenges pushing us down and strengths which lift us up. Outside of that, you see a wider rectangle which has a white background behind it. And that's more the external one. So the typical aspects of an environmental scan, there will be trends, political, economic, social, and technological around us, about which we probably won't be able to influence them much. We'll be able to respond to them. So that's at a pictorial level, 30,000 feet, this is what it looks like. And I want you to hang on to the 30,000 feet because I'll come back to it in just a second. This is what our population between 2028 and 2030 is going to look like. And I know it's a little small, and I'll be happy to send it to you. None of this is particularly surprising. As we look at the percentage change, what you will see is, the 18 to 24 year, from under 18 all the way to 24, that group is kind of declining as a percentage of the Valley population. In fact, the only group which is expanding as a percentage is those who are 65 or more. Big Newtons.
Yeah, big Newtons.
Similarly, when you look at ethnicity, and I've grouped them to kind of in a binary sense. Again, this is something which we have seen. This is no surprise. The non-white percentage is growing, almost entirely driven by the Hispanic population. And even though the percentages look pretty little, 1.7, 0.4, we're talking about thousands of people. These are real numbers. And the other thing is at the bottom, and this is, I need to look more into it, but I guess there'll be more guys. I mean, I'm using levity here, but part of it is that if national trends are in any indication, more female professionals are open to relocating than men. So that's probably part of it. So this is what, between 28 and 30, this is how the population overall is going to change. A lot of credit goes to, yes, I modeled this information, but a lot of credit goes to, the Census Bureau, their regular ACS survey, Portland State University's population projections. Those were the ones which we used to model up to this. So younger folks getting less, not so younger folks getting more. Now this is, all that is important. This is more important to us, the relevant population. And what you see here is for those 28, 29, 30, this is annualized, deduplicated, rounded and averaged, whole lot of buzzwords. But what it comes down to is in a given year, we'll be looking at a population where there are about 1,200 accelerated learners which will be available to us. And those are folks in high schools who are open to taking college classes with us. Not just with colleges, they're open to taking classes with us. Similarly, high school graduates getting out in May to college in August, about 750 of them. GED or high school equivalency seekers, about 500. Some college, and they want to come back. These are folks who, and you heard a couple of them here, that these are folks who had college credits, life happens. Now they want to come back and finish that. Workforce upskilling, big number. 10,000, more than 10,000 available to us, not to SAU, they're available to us. And English as a second language. So this is what I call the relevant population or the available population to RCC. So now we have that. Our job is, we talk about opportunities. This is our job. These are the occupations we are looking at in the Valley right now. For that relevant population, where are we sending them? What are we preparing them for? And what you see is between 28 and 30, and this is a continuing trend. These are the industries, these are the occupations which are growing. Healthcare, financial operations, food prep, personal care, transportation. I'm not going to go through all of this, but you get the idea that some of them are growing far more than others. And if you go down at the very bottom, not a whole lot of lawyers or paralegals. On the other side, these are occupations, but something else matters as well in addition to occupations. It is industries who employ people in those occupations. And you see pretty neat match. Healthcare and social assistant industries are the ones which are top growing in the Valley. But next to that is government. On that includes local, state, federal, and whatnot. Though I suspect if we look at the next quarter with government, we may have a little bit of stagnation given what has happened on the federal workforce side. I bring those two things up because often when we're looking at who we are preparing for what, we sometimes just look at the occupations or the industries. Both of them matter. And sometimes they're not going in the same trajectory. I want to take a look at both of those things as we kind of match the opportunities. And this matters because, we talk about opportunities and people we serve. What we bring is matching those two things, optimizing opportunities. And this is what matters, that our programs prepare folks for both occupations and industries. When we're looking at what's growing, you need to look at both occupations and industries. And then ask those questions, how can we be a significant player in those things which are growing? And do we need to take a look at reprioritizing resources and create or expand such programs? Ultimately, the question for us when it comes to strategic planning for the future is that based on those questions, what are optimized opportunities? We have often talked about this. This is an institution. It is an institution of opportunity. More than that, we are the institution which optimizes those who come to us. And this is the concept. So what next? I shared with you that in July, we are going to bring the results of the survey and the strategic planning module. I'm going to get down from the 30,000 to the 10,000 environmental scan and have these additional things for you. Incorporate the tentative findings, produce a preliminary matrix of where our programs, occupations, and industries together, and share with you what we find out about any untapped industries or occupations we may have. And finally, a better idea of what the internal and external opportunities and threats, challenges, and leeways are for us going forward. So with that, and I started out with 30,000. This is keeping it at 30,000 and getting you home for dinner. So what questions or observations do you have which I may be able to answer?
You did so well. There are no further questions or observations right now. Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
Hi, everyone. So I know we still have a full agenda, and you do have my report, but I did want to shout out a very large thank you to Maria and Pat for attending the RCC Foundation Board meeting, as well as Randy's work there as well. And to the RCC Foundation Board, they did vote to hire a campaign consultant who's very experienced. We're very excited about Casey Woodard. So we will be going into our campaign readiness study and moving forward, and we'll have the results from that study, giving us the actual what we'll be going for, what will be our campaign goal is what I'm trying to say. So that's really exciting. Also, just another 50,000 foot view. No, the $50,000 that we received from Lithia is very exciting. And we had all the representatives in the room from all the different Lithia dealerships. So a wonderful start to those and a beginning and a middle conversation for transportation technology. So that's it.
Any questions for Cass? All right, thank you so much. We're going to move into our board action and information item, starting with the monthly financial data report. Any questions? Okay. And then we had the tuition rates explained to us earlier during our work session, including the one that's missing from our packet. Will be there next month. Any discussion? Okay. And the fees also. And then we get into our first reading of our board policy 3430, prohibition of harassment. It is a first reading. You look over. Okay, and our board policy 3505, emergency operations planning. Okay, we're going to move into our action items. I will entertain a motion for revised board policy 3440, service assistance animals.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 You guys can raise your hand or say aye on the screen, whatever works better for you. Thank you. Motion passed. Entertain a motion for BP 35 campus safety.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Back on the screen. And entertain a motion for board policy 3501, campus security and access.
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I love the way you guys like side-eyed each other to see.
Yeah.
who's gonna do it. All right, seeing.
gets a chance.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hear all your voices. I don't need to say nay. Okay. On our next one, before we do our.
Yeah, so
motion,
thank you guys for your efforts so far. On 8I, the board policy 3503, missing student notification. If you were to go read it, our policy says is that missing student notification is legally required policy for an entity that maintains on-campus student housing facilities. So then our policy goes on to read, RTC does not operate on campus student housing and is therefore not required to maintain this board policy. So we're voting to maintain a policy that we don't want to maintain. And the only reason it's changing is actually because it's consistent. It's up for the regular review. And so it's consistent with the logo change. Our team's understanding was they don't think that this template language was in there. We were told when we initially adopted it that we kind of needed it. So we have a couple options. I would recommend or suggest, and I wish we had done this behind the scenes, but we do catch it. That's why we have multiple readings. Either to a revised motion to rescind this, or we could bring a recommendation next month to rescind it if you'd like. But it does make sense probably to just get rid of the policy versus to maintain a policy that is not maintaining a policy. So we could go either way. We could go with a motion to rescind versus a motion to approve, or we could wait a month and bring you that recommendation, which we didn't bring that to you as a recommendation this month, whatever the board's preference.
I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to rescind board policy BP 3503, missing student notification.
I'll second that.
Second from Pat. Any discussion? I think it makes sense. All those in favor of rescinding board policy 3503, say aye.
Aye.
All right. It has officially been rescinded. You're welcome. Thanks for jumping in there. Sorry, let me get to the next part. And that is our 2025-26 supplemental budget. Do you have any prior to the motion, do we have any further information to share?
So we're bringing this supplemental budget forward for you to consider. This is for the capital projects fund only, so not the general fund. Within the capital projects fund, the transportation technology project is being expensed out of here. When we put the budget together, we were not anticipating putting early work packages together. And so that is, we did not have the budget authority to move forward with those work packages. The funds, we still have the 16 million, 7 coming from the state, 9 coming from the college. We did not budget all of the revenue from the state, just what we thought we would anticipate. And then the money from the college that we had for reserves and reinvestment was put, 4 million of that was put into actually 8 million reserve for future expenditures, which we're not allowed to spend out of unless we bring a supplemental budget back to you. So what we're doing is coming and asking, we'd like to move money out of the reserve for future expenditures up into the other
Capital budget for the transportation.
Gotcha.
appropriations to allow us to pay for the work that's occurring. And again, next year's budget will reflect that we moved this and spent it this year. And we will do the 50-50 split between the state and the college.
Madam Chair, so moved.
Okay, we got a motion to approve and a second. Thank you, Indra. Any further discussion from the board? All those in favor?
Yeah,
Oh, wait, sorry, Gary, I saw your hand come up right as I started talking. Go for it.
Yeah, I just have a question for Lisa. Is the supplemental budget then a special budget that doesn't presently exist. And so we're moving money from existing resources and allocations into this sort of mini budget for the purpose to achieve the goal of the transportation center.
It's a modification of a previously adopted budget, right?
It is, it goes beyond the beyond the limits in which budget law allows you to just make a transfer, a budget transfer, which is also later on in the consent agenda. And so it requires board action in a different fashion, just because of local budget law.
What
So
is the
the,
threshold?
so
Sorry, Gary, just a sec. What's
You cannot move, I don't believe you can move out of reserve for future expenditures. You have to have a supplemental budget. Contingency, I believe it's 10 or 15, I apologize, percent, but we don't allow the contingencies in this fund to be larger than what we're allowed to legally transfer through a budget transfer.
Go ahead, Gary.
yeah, so just to restate what I think I understand is the budget presently exists. So all of the budget codes and the objects or the areas of expenditure are already in a budget that we had previously approved. And this supplemental budget is readopting it because of the size of the transfer that wouldn't normally be allowed. Do I understand that right?
Essentially, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Other questions? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And now our contract with Johnson Controls that Lisa talked about earlier. I would entertain a motion, or unless you have any more information you want to share before we do it. All right, thank you.
I just have one question. How long have we had a relationship with Johnson Controls? This has been a long time.
It is a long time. Greg is on, maybe we can promote him. He's also coming later. Maybe he can answer
Yeah,
that.
it's not that important, but it's decades, I think.
I'm not sure that it's that, I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll find out.
Yes.
Oh, there he is. He's being promoted. Congratulations, Greg.
We're sorry.
No, we're sorry. One or the other.
Oh, hello, everybody. The short answer, Pat, is yeah, it's been decades. I think though within the about the time we started the bond projects, what was that, around 2016, is where we really started working a lot with Johnson Controls because of the new buildings, of course, and all the automation and energy management controls. So working with them for a lot of years, but really just ramped up from that 2016 time period.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg. All right, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Excellent. All right, new business, PERS bond update.
All right. Sure, let's see. I wanted to talk a little about our pension strategy, where we are today with our PERS bonds that we have to talk a little bit about them, and then where we might be going into the future. And so with pension bond, your strategy is really long-term to manage your costs and bring them down. And the goal is to generate meaningful savings over time. And so it does take a long time to determine the savings that you have. We do have two bonds. I have to move my in 2005, we issued $21 million bond at a rate of 4.86%. We're going to retire that in 2027. And our rate credit that we have currently is 10.15%. So what that rate credit is they actually take the bond proceeds, they put it in what I would call a savings account. They call it a side account. Every month when we go to pay our PERS expenses, they give us a 10% credit on our overall rate. So if our rate's 20%, they take 10% off that and they only charge us 10%. And so they move the money. And that rate's based on an actuarial evaluation they do of how long you're going to have the funds and how long the bond goes. So they do that. In 2021, we issued a 31.5 million bond, at an interest rate of an all-time low of 2.49%. That's the lowest I could see of all the bonds that were issued with community colleges. This one will retire in 2040, and our rate credit right now is 9.65%. So the good news is thus far between the two bonds, we have saved $11.7 million. And so very excited about that. And the 2025 returns through November were 8.75% on our site accounts. So the full impact of so that's actually, we have realized that $11.7 million. What they think that we're going to realize through 2040 is actually $19.4 million. So very excited that we made this decision to bond. Very excited. One of the things that we have been talking about is the pension bond payoff. When they created these pension bonds, and it most likely will happen with the 2021 bond we issued as well, the rate credit is actually going to end in May of 27, and it may end earlier for us. As I said, it's based on this evaluation they do. It's based on what they think your payroll is going to increase. I'm sorry, PERS eligible payroll is going to increase, and they do this calculation. But our last debt payment is actually going to happen in 2028. So we did, as a college, put aside PERS reserve. And since we did, we can actually use that PERS reserve to make this last bond payment. There are other institutions out there that not only have to make their bond payment, their rate credit's going away. So for that year, they're doubling up on their PERS in some fashion. Any questions on where we've been or where we are? So there are a number of steps to actually issue a pension bond. And the reason that I bring this up is, as this bond is ending, there's a potential to issue additional bonds into the future because our unfunded actual liability continues to increase. It's actually not decreasing right now. It's a 9 to 12 month process to get through all of the steps that we have to do. One of the steps that I've highlighted in blue is actually an independent statistical assessment. Those are expensive, and it's something that you have to put together to see if it even makes sense to go out and bond. There's an opportunity with the Oregon Association of School Business Officers to actually go into a consortium like we did for the 2021 bond and do that analysis all together. We want to make sure that the interest rate wouldn't be above 4% on our bonds to actually make this a reasonable investment. I will say, and I remember this back to, I think it was 2011 when we brought the audit forward. Our auditor at the time said we made a mistake in bonding PERS. I'm here to say I'm coming back, but 14, 15 years later to say, no, we didn't. We actually made $11 million. And so it does take a long time to figure out what those savings. And so PERS bonds, even though we have been very successful thus far, and we anticipate to be successful into the future, it's not guaranteed. So the last slide I have is just to show you when we actually did the 2021 bond sale of what the analysis looked at. And at 2.5% interest rate, there is about a 95% chance the bond would save us money over the life of the bond. And thus far, it has saved us money and anticipating even more. And so again, all of the reasons to go forward into that consortium with the analysis and see what that looks like. My understanding is they'd like to move forward with that consortium this year, and they're going to do multiple analysis over the next couple of years as interest rates change. You can't move forward until you have that. And so it's something to have on the shelf and utilize. Are there any questions?
You're not asking us to take action on this at this point.
I'm not asking you, I'm educating you, and you know how much we saved thus far, and it's a great strategy moving forward as long as the market is in the right
Okay,
place.
let me ask the question a different way. If this consortium is coming together, and I remember the discussion back in 2021, of course, we need to make a decision at some point whether we want to be part of that. So when does that happen?
So they sent out a request to see if we were interested, maybe not. And I said, we might be interested. They have asked us questions like, how many years would you like and how much are you willing to pay? I believe the cost I clicked on was not more than $5,000. So it'd be very minimal for us to be part of this. And I believe the last time we went into this same consortium to do it, I think the cost was between $1,000 and $5,000. And so it's not a significant amount. What we would bring forward is if that analysis showed it was a great time to start bonds, we would bring that information here and request for you to look at.
So you don't really need us to take any action for you to continue. Okay, got it.
Just letting you know that's kind of the way that we're going, and we will most likely bring something forward in the future, whether it's in the next 24 months or later on. It's something to consider.
It's so driven by interest rates. So if you can get your crystal ball out and tell us what those will look like, that'll definitely influence our interest in pursuing it.
Any other questions? All right, moving on to old business. It's the Greg Show. Start with Transportation Technology Center project updates.
All right. Well, you have my report before you. I'm always happy to answer questions. I would like to point out that the transportation technology at the Table Rock campus is already out for public procurement right now. Went out on the 10th. And so this is where we're pulling together our subcontractor pricing. And then once that's completed, we'll work with the CMGC and negotiate a final guaranteed maximum price with the next milestone at the April board meeting, bringing a contract before you. The Redwood campus, the final design will go out for public procurement on March 4th. And again, aligning the time, it'll be tight, but aligning that timeline to bring a contract to the board in April. Same. So both a guaranteed maximum price for both projects. And I did add a couple future upcoming milestones on here for groundbreaking, and that's to be determined. But Randy, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about that as well, but I think it's an important piece of these type of projects is to have a groundbreaking ceremony, and one for each project.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is we had meaningful conversation around, we look at it in one project in some way, but it's also two buildings. Should we do one or two groundbreakings? And we really feel like two groundbreakings is appropriate because we're really going to try to work with industry regionally to both. Yeah.
That makes sense. It's exciting to see that added, though. It means it's getting closer and closer and closer.
The golden shovels.
The golden shovels.
It always feels like when you first start a project with design, it always feels like it's a really far ways off before you begin construction, but inevitably it seems to go by really fast. And here we are, and before you know it, we'll be done.
All right. Any other questions about technology before we do the facilities conversation moving forward update? Is there anything?
So I just want to talk about the comprehensive campus master plan. Last month, you had asked how many people are on the steering committee. Greg and I were not able to find that information. I apologize. So then, Greg, do you want to walk through your next document?
Yeah, I can share it if everybody would like. If I can get there. Can you all see this? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. It's a little bit of a delay. Okay, so we talked about various phases in the comprehensive college master plan, and we're in phase 1 right now. And so here, this is the proposed steering committee. It is a larger group. This structure, it ensures continuity as well as well-rounded input. particularly in the area where consultant-led workshops and open forums have limited attendance. That's important here because when we did, Roger, you may remember this, is when we had the workshops where we invited a bunch of people together to participate in the Table Rock Campus Master Plan, there were at least two, possibly three workshops out of many that nobody showed up. And so the information we needed from those workshops, really we were limited, and we had to circle back and regroup with key stakeholders for those areas in order to provide some input. And so the idea here with a larger steering committee is to help provide a mitigation essentially to that repeat. So we're calling project sponsors are essentially, you have a management group or management team, project management, and that's really what we're calling project sponsors here. This is really like a steering committee. And so a much smaller group, but the committee reviews and advances the recommendations that are developed by the consulting firm and the steering committee, and provides the leadership and level guidance and direction necessary to move the project forward. And then the consultative groups, this is not an exhaustive list. However, the consultant will need to have direct access to either committees or departments that have specific information that align with a comprehensive college master plan. And so these were the initial groups that were identified that we would provide to the consultant to communicate with directly, and then the primary contact for those for that either committee or department. So the next steps, remember we had 5 steps total. Here's the, phase 2 through 5, and these are the exact descriptions of what Lisa and I provided in our presentation last month. So I'm not planning on reading through each one of these today, but they're here. And then I went ahead and moved this information into a timeline, and I'm going to switch here to this other tab if you can see it, because this one is oriented different for easy printing. Can you all see this?
Yep.
Okay. So here are the phases, basically ending up at a board decision in February of 2027. So we're, if I put a little star in it, we're about right here. And we're at the point now where we're developing the request for qualifications, the development of that RFQ, and an advertisement for a design professional. And the group that would be part of that scoring of those proposals would be that the project sponsor, basically the oversight committee. And so once we complete that, we'll put the document out for public procurement. And this is a pretty aggressive timeline in the very beginning. Just want you all to know that ahead of time. So the intent is that we would put that public procurement document out in March. And the idea is that we would be able to bring a contract before the board at the May 19th meeting. And then the actual comprehensive master planning process with the consultant would begin the first week of June. And then at that time, we would establish a project charter, and the consultant, as part of their scope of work and deliverable, would provide a more detailed project schedule beyond just these steps that I'm providing here. So these are essentially the same steps, just in a condensed format of what we talked about in the slide previous, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I can't see the other 2 board members to see if they have any questions. Sorry. Nothing. Okay. Thank you, Greg.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion. We could either approve them all at once or do A and B separately. To make a motion gets to choose.
Move to approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
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 At once. All right, we are moving into our board roundtable. Do you have anything that you want to share?
I just, the students who were here that got awarded, that was so inspiring and, just so proud. Oh, sorry, it is emotional. So proud of those, students who, you know, just made it through their struggles and the trials that they had and are coming out on top. It's really an inspiration and why we do this.
Yeah.
Transform lives, and it's so great when the living examples come and remind us of that.
That's what I was gonna say, so I'm looking at, I had the same thought, like, oh yeah, this is why we do what we do to improve lives across the region. So. Gary or Maria, anything for roundtable for you?
I want to echo Indra's comments about how inspirational that was. And yeah, it is exactly why we do it. And also, huge kudos on our the work we've done to improve our understanding of our students and that environmental scan. I can't wait to see it. So we've come a long way, and I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
I want to do a shout out just to the employees that were behind the stories of those students. Because it does take a large amount of people and resources and time and energy and effort and blood, sweat, and tears sometimes dragging people across lines, but RCC's got it going on for that. And you heard it, it was evident in everybody and what they said, their instructors, their support people, it just.
We have a lot of challenges and a lot of limitations, but what is abundantly evident, you see it in every which way, is we have such a culture of care.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows itself in so many ways. I saw Gary was.
Oh, Gary, you got it. Sorry, Gary.
No, I didn't have my hand up.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Well, the Board of Education will now adjourn the regular meeting at 6:38 and move into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.
I sent you an email.
Board will not be convening after the
I
executive
don't like it.
session, and action will take place at the next regular. Mister, I'm doing all the talking here. Will take place at the next regular meeting of the board. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Now.